It is Tuesday, January 10th. It is 2:01 p.m. Madam Secretary, will you please read the roll?
Happy New Year to everyone.
You, New Year. Happy New Year.
Chairwoman McGinnis,
Here.
Vice Chairman Pierce,
Here.
Member Bettenher,
Here.
Member DeSimone,
Present.
Member Johnson, Member Scholl,
Present.
Member West,
Present.
Executive Director Robert Lafonsa,
Present.
Legal Counsel Ray McCutcheon.
Present.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. And you beat me to it, but Happy New Year to everyone. We would also like to welcome, before we start the meeting, our Secretary of State, Mr. Secretary Amore, for being here today. And we also have Rob Brock, who is in a new position as Director of Administration. So we welcome you and your staff as well. Thank you. First item on the agenda, the board may discuss and vote to approve the minutes of the meeting held on Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. All in favor signify by saying
Madam
aye.
Chairperson,
Yes, Mr. West.
I was not in attendance at that meeting, so I will abstain.
Mr. West abstains. Okay. I actually abstain as well. I wasn't present. So do we have a motion to approve? Do we have the majority motion to, oh dear.
There was a motion.
Did you? Yes, I'm sorry. You're exactly right.
Yeah.
You made the motion and Mr. Scholes made the motion. The vice chair seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Two abstentions. Item number 2, the board may discuss and vote to approve a request to retain legal counsel by Raymond A. Marcaccio Esquire from the law firm of Oliverio and Marcaccio LLP for 2022. Bob, did you want to, what was that, Patty?
It should be 23. I have-
Motion to amend item 2 on the agenda to
Ah.
change from 2022 to 2023.
Motion by Mr. DeSimone. Do we have a
Second.
second? Seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you, Patty, for catching that. Yes. Mr.
Honorable members of the board, in your packet, you will find documentation from Ray Marcaccio, a partner in the law firm of Oliverio and Marcaccio. I would like to state that Ray has provided strong legal advice since he began working with the board in 2002, and I personally refer to him often for legal matters. Ray responds to my inquiries at any time and continues to be a strong asset to this agency. I feel we have been fortunate to have an attorney with a broad knowledge of elections and campaign finance. I hope you feel agree with my sentiment and vote to retain Ray for the current year, 2023.
Thank you, Mr. Reposa. I have to say, I've only been here since 2016, but I've certainly seen the benefit to having Mr. Marcaccio as our legal counsel. I believe we've been fortunate as well. Does anyone have anything they would like to add, or would anyone like to make a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Scholes?
Yes, Madam Chair. First of all, I admire Ray's dedication, skill, experience. He certainly brought a lot of institutional memory to this board. I don't think the board really could act as acumen without his skill, qualification, and experience. So, with pleasure, I move that we retain Mr. Marcaccio as legal counsel for this board for the coming year.
Second.
Do we have a motion? Who made the second? Mr. DeSimone? Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve the retention of legal counsel. Do we have any further discussion?
Madam Chair, I would like to second the comments, your comments and Mr. Scholl's comments with regard to Ray's service to this board. I think it's been exemplary, and we are fortunate to have someone so skilled and
Agreed.
attentive as he is.
Agreed.
They have been invaluable for the board, and thank for his longevity on the board with us. I've been here since 2009, and Ray has been here, so yes, I can attest to that.
So I'm having a feeling here that we may have a unanimous vote.
That's
but-
good. That's good.
Okay, with that said, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, it is indeed unanimous.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board. I deeply appreciate all of your comments, and it's been a joy to work for the board and for each of you over these many years.
Item number 3, the board may discuss and vote to designate John Anderson Esquire to serve as counsel to the board on conflict matters. Mr. Ocasio, would you like to address this?
Over the year, Bob may have some comments on that, but over the years, we have not really needed John Anderson's assistance very often, but he's a learned member of the bar, and he has, I believe, held elected office, and he has a fair amount of experience with elections-related matters. So I commend his expertise, and in the event that there is a conflict, I would recommend his services.
Any questions of Ms. Marcaccio or our executive director relative to this matter?
I'll make a motion, Madam Chairwoman, that we approve the John Anderson to serve as counsel should conflict matters come up.
So Mr. West has made the motion. Do we have a second to that motion? Seconded by Mr. Scholes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous vote. And let the record reflect that Mrs. Johnson joined us at 2:05-ish. Okay, item number 4. The board may discuss and vote to support the change in Rhode Island General Laws 17-19-14 regarding preparation and the logic and accuracy testing of voting equipment for elections. I don't know if you would like to say anything first. We'll call up our secretary. Please come forward, Mr. Amore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, I appreciate it. And let me publicly thank you for the work that you do. Your service to the state as stewards of our democracy, it is appreciated now more than ever. I had the opportunity to meet with Executive Director Raposa and members of the board to discuss a legislative package that the Department of State will put forward. And we were pleased to take the input from the board and work with the board on this package. In particular, we're talking about the testing language. And this addresses what you have already addressed, which is protocols to make sure that the testing, in specifically the testing with the express voting machines, is sufficient. And all this language does is codifies that, puts into state law this process with the accessible voting units, but also adds language, and it's in section D, for the State Board of Elections in consultation with the Secretary of State shall promulgate rules and regulations on logic and accuracy testing protocols, which gives you broad ability to keep up with the technology. And that is the goal here. The goal is to make sure that as technology changes, the board, the testing, the requirements of testing, logic and accuracy testing of the board can meet that challenge. And so we believe this language does that. And I thank Bob for his work on this, the members of the board who made suggestions on this language, and it's presented before you for your support prior to it being filed as legislation in the General Assembly.
Do the board members have any discussion or questions or matters they would address at this time?
I would just like to thank the secretary for the time that he put in prior to being secretary, because he was secretary-elect at the time. And I know they've been doing a lot of work. He and Mr. Rock have been doing a lot of work on this from just after the election. So it was a pleasure to work with them on this.
Report. Thank you. Anyone else have anything they would like to add? Do we have a
I just
motion?
have one question.
Yes,
then.
Mr. West.
Prior to that, we promulgate rules and regulations. We've done this. We have that ability to do now. How does that change with this?
This section of 17, 19, 14 would never address what we refer to as the voting assistant device that we provide, never covered the auto mark. This now puts this into this language. It also gives you in D, the ability or to create a rule and reg. We do not have a rule and reg for this today. We have a protocol.
Thank you.
Yes, Mrs. Johnson.
One comment and a question. I want to echo Commissioner DeSimone's thanks to you, Mr. Secretary. We look forward to working with you on this. And so on the rules, to take that a step further, you mentioned new technology. You know, we know there was some confusion this time. So those will be drafted together to ensure that how we're testing for accuracy is up to date with the new, so ballot proofing, you know, on the screens, things like that.
That is correct.
Okay.
Any other comments?
Actually, I have a
Mr.
question
Scholes?
to Bob. You're doing this color-coded copy.
Mm.
Some of the language is in red, some of it's in blue. Can you tell us what the distinction is, why some red and some blue?
The blue D is which, if the blue was the original comment or changes suggested by the secretary's office. The red are some additions that were put back in by the board staff and after Ray looked at it. And red in number D was there originally, and then we had a different word, but then we agreed with the secretary that we'd run with the consultation. So when it went back in, it came out in red.
Appropriately red and blue.
I know, right?
White.
That shows the
We're
shows the
color
collaborative effort here on this piece of legislation.
That's right. So what we have before us then is language that the staff has agreed to, as well as the secretary's office, and we're all in unison here that this is the correct language.
That is correct.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, do we have a motion by the board?
I would move approval, Madam Chair, with regard to item 4.
That's a motion by Mr. DeSimone and a second by Mr. Scholes. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, unanimous vote of approval. Item number 5, the board may discuss and vote to support the change in Rhode Island General Law 17-19-3 regarding voting equipment and services, including specifications and procurement of equipment. Mr. Secretary, did you want to address this as well?
Yeah, so this is one line, and this came from our discussions with the members of the board, and my belief that there should be a distinct separation between the operations of the board and the Department of State. I think that's healthy. It's a positive thing. I know we're unique across the country, but I think it's healthy. And after discussions with a number of board members and in consultation with our staff, I agreed that the purchasing power should return to the board and that the Department of State should be a consultant in that process. And this codifies that and returns it. I believe it switched in 2016, 15. And this would return that power to the board.
Any questions of the board members? Any concerns?
I do have a question. So when would this take effect in the bill? Would it say upon passage or
Upon
specific?
passage
Okay.
is
thank you.
how it will be drafted, yes.
Any other questions? Does the board wish to take an action?
The movie about the proposed legislation.
Moved by Mr. Scholl, seconded by Ms. Bettenker. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh, did you have something?
No, I was
Oh, okay.
voting. I was voting before you called for the
Okay,
vote.
all opposed? Okay, it's unanimous vote of approval.
It shows you how much I'm favorable.
Yes, yes. It's a good thing. Item number 6, the board may discuss and vote to support the change in Rhode Island General Law 17-7-3 regarding appointment of a liaison. Does the board have any questions, comments on this proposed legislation?
I have a, so I just
Ms.
see that,
Bettenker?
thank you. I just see that there's a addition with Ray's suggestions. And I just saw that. So it's basically, so it's a saying, we would designate a human from the board to also, I'd love to hear how, what that looks like. Like, is
Yeah.
it someone, is it a staff member? How often are we meeting and, or just, yeah.
I proposed that, I sent that to Bob for discussion purposes. I don't know if, Bob, does the staff have a recommendation on that as to whether they're supporting? I don't think they're supporting that
Okay.
recommendation, that language, but you can tell the
It
board.
was something that Ray and I discussed. Ray sent it, I sent it on to you because it was an agenda item. But there's a difference between the operation of the Secretary of State's office and the Board of Elections,
Mhm.
where you are a board. The Secretary of State's office does not have a board. So we would essentially just be involved with going to staff meetings or something of that nature. And the staff did not feel that was necessary because we have such a good relationship between both offices today. We share things all the time. We didn't feel that we needed to be a liaison to them.
I agree. Any other questions?
I mean, thank you for that. I do think I've said this before, that as much proactive
Mhm.
two-way communication that can be happening. So understand where you and the staff are coming from, and if there isn't, that sort of presence and designation at those meetings, I would, implore you to
Mhm.
make sure that you know what's happening, what's coming out of those meetings.
And if I can add to
Yes.
to that, I mentioned this to Secretary Amore. I think the reason why I really appreciated this idea of a liaison is we have to think beyond this specific board, like the humans in this board and the current secretary. There are going to be different executive directors. There's going to be different staff. So we have to think beyond this. And I think this is an idea of how both entities work together. And this is what we're doing, right? We're talking about technology. We're talking about different things in this meeting. And so the idea of both entities working together, both of them, it's that. So I think it's really important to ensure that we are also at, their disposal as they are always in our meetings.
Yeah,
Thank
just a-
you.
Just as a,
Yes,
Madam
Mr.
Chair, just
DeSimone.
as a clarification, and I know, Rob, you're not presenting today, but in effect, at least as long as I've been here, you've acted in exactly what this says
Right.
in the statute, as far as my recollection is anyway. And,
Right.
You can, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, because you've been doing this longer than I have, but, I just think it's a codification of that. So
Exactly right.
I would certainly be in support of it.
That's how I view it as well, Mr. DeSimone. Any other comments? Mr. West, did you have something?
Just, my curiosity was that when we have liaison, and we ask the liaison questions of whatever during meetings, day before we've had that, and we've always asked them at the end of the presentation or what have you, any comments from the Secretary of State's office, and there either were or there weren't any. But how does that affect with the general public at these meetings once now the Secretary of State's office has their input into the meeting? How does that affect the rest of the public at these meetings? Is my question.
So you're asking if they would then have questions of the secretary's office or in general?
Just in general, I mean, is it incumbent on us now to put into the regulations of the meeting that we have of public discussion, or what we've been doing, does that constitute public discussions? Is that enough, or do we need more? That's just my question. Somebody can answer that for me.
Well, perhaps we could take a look at the rules and regs and see if there's something we could make clearer. But I think in this instance, this is particular to the Secretary of State's office and their relationship with the board. So I don't know, Bob, could we look at the rules and regs to determine
We would
public
have-
input?
We would have to create rules and regs that would allow public input, but for the short time that I have been employed by the Board of Elections, this board has always allowed the public to speak at your meetings.
Yeah, I'm just saying now that if this gets approved, do we have to do something now in that regard, or does it all have to be done together? Somebody can answer that. So,
Perhaps our legal counsel could take a look at that to see if there's, would be
With
an
respect to
obligation.
the public's participation? Okay, under the Open Meetings Act, if the board has an agenda item that requires public comment, then you do have to take public comment. If it does not, then you don't. This board has always, I think, exercised good discretion by allowing people to comment, even if it's not on the agenda.
Mr. Schultz? Yes.
Deals with implementation, specifically the last sentence. It says the secretary and the board shall make a platform available to the liaison to facilitate the process. Can you explain how that's gonna work?
I think I'm sitting at the platform now.
Yeah.
It's just technical.
So it's just a
Yeah,
seat at the table,
That's
but
it.
not a
that's it.
raised
Correct,
platform.
correct.
Okay,
Seat at the table.
thank you.
Any other questions or comments relative to this legislation?
The movie adopted.
Mr. Schultz makes a motion. Mr. DeSimone, did you second?
Can we ask for a clarification
Sure
on
thing.
this corner?
sorry.
So are we, are we moving for the one that Secretary's office sent us or the one that Ray's suggestion?
We're moving the submission by the Secretary of
Thank you.
State at this point.
Perfect,
Yes.
thank you.
And that was a motion by Mr. Schultz, seconded by Mr. DeSimone to approve this. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Right.
Those opposed? We have one opposition. Motion carries. Okay,
Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair,
you. So-
members of the board. Thank you.
thank you very much, sir. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, and this item will be moved to I believe the next board meeting.
The
Is that
next bo-
correct?
The next board meeting is Tuesday, February 7th.
Motion to continue to February 7th.
Continue to February 2nd,
Second.
seconded by Ms.
Seven.
Seconded by Vice Chair Pierce. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Those opposed? The item is approved to the next board meeting. And do we have any other business before the board today? We do not. Do we have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
You did.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Schultz. Do we have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. DeSimone. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. We are adjourned at 2:24. Amazing. Thank you, Rob.
I know.